We've got another Liberal candidate with ties to the Chinese Communist Party because apparently Mark Carney's Liberals looked at the disaster that was Paul Chang and thought, you know what this scandal needs? A sequel. Today's report is part of a series, MeetTheLiberals.com, where you can learn all about the radicals, extremists, and CCP apologists running to lead this country. And today I'm relying heavily on the solid reporting of Sam Cooper's The Bureau and the Globe and Mail. Today, meet Peter Yuen. He's a retired Toronto deputy police chief, now parachuted in as the Liberal candidate for Markham-Unionville, replacing Paul Chang, the same guy who suggested handing over a Conservative candidate to Chinese authorities for a $1 million bounty.
He was a media person, so that's all he did all his life. But also right now, he is wanted by the Chinese government, and there's a $1 million reward on his head. So they want, if you guys want to pick him up and take him to the Chinese consulate, you make him $1 million.
Now, instead of putting forward a clean candidate, the Carney Liberals went and found another figure with red-tinged baggage, because nothing screams, we take foreign interference seriously, like swapping one CCP-linked cop for another CCP-linked cop. Yuen's resume looks shiny from the outside. 34 years in the Toronto Police Service, rose to deputy chief, led community policing, gave a TED Talk. But underneath that polish, we're seeing a growing list of affiliations that reek of Beijing's foreign influence operations. In 2017, while still with the Toronto Police Service, Yuen attended a gala hosted by the Confederation of Toronto Chinese Canadian Organizations, a group with known ties to the Chinese consulate and the CCP's United Front Work Department. At that event, Yuen sang My Chinese Heart, a patriotic song about loyalty to China, not Canada, China. This wasn't a cultural event. It was a CCP-friendly political gathering with consulate representation and Beijing loyalists in the crowd. Yuen was also photographed with a Markham, quote, community leader who has attended closed-door United Front meetings in Beijing with none other than Xi Jinping. Yuen also spoke at events organized by the Toronto Chinese Freemasons, a group that has openly called for the peaceful reunification of China and Taiwan, a key talking point of Beijing's foreign policy agenda. Yuen was also listed as an honorary director of the Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada, the JCCC, another group with ties to the United Front, as recently as this month. Now, that's the same group Mark Carney denied meeting or even knowing.
So my question is, why did you meet with this pro-Beijing group, Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? And is the party okay with the fact that Liberal candidate Peter Yuen has been so close with the Chinese consulate and China-friendly groups, given the public inquiry into foreign interference says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that, okay? Or your colleagues do.
But there are photos of the meeting on the JCCC website announcing Carney as the best choice for Prime Minister. Not for Canada, of course, but rather for China. And then let's talk about the NOIC Academy, because this one's a bit of a doozy. In August 2024, Peter Yuen joined the board of the NOIC Academy, a private international school in Markham. Sounds benign, except that NOIC was one of the schools flagged by CSIS during Canada's foreign interference inquiry. Back in the 2019 election, CSIS reported that Chinese international students from that school were pressured by consular officials to vote Liberal, or else they were bussed in to vote for the nomination candidate of the consulate's choosing. There were visa threats, family intimidation, classic CCP tactics. And who is the candidate who allegedly benefited? Han Dong, the very same Liberal MP who left caucus under a cloud of foreign interference accusations. Now, to be clear, Yuen wasn't on the board at the time of the 2019 incident, but why on earth would anyone join an institution so closely tied to an active election meddling investigation. Either Yuen didn't know or he didn't care. And when the Globe and Mail asked Yuen where he stands on Taiwan, the Uyghur genocide, or the United Front's operations in Canada, he refused to answer. Instead, he deflected. He talked about his police career as if that makes his long history of pro-Beijing affiliations magically disappear. In fact, I think it makes them worse. Meanwhile, CSIS has warned that the Chinese Communist Party is actively trying to influence this election in favor of, you guessed it, Mark Carney's Liberals. Doesn't this series of CCP cop candidates for the Liberals all make sense now? The CCP will help Carney get elected if Carney runs CCP-friendly candidates for them to govern Canada with. So, to recap, Paul Chang steps down over a bounty for Beijing scandal, and the Liberals replace him with Peter Yuen, a guy with a resume full of cozy ties to Beijing's influence networks. And when asked about all of this, the Liberal Party insists Yuen went through a, quote, robust vetting process. Right, just like the way they vetted Han Dong, just like the way they vetted Michael Chan, who, by the way, was flagged by CSIS for his ties to Chinese officials years later. This isn't a glitch. This is a Liberal strategy. Cater to CCP-aligned diaspora networks, turn a blind eye to foreign interference, and hope Canadians are too distracted by their impending poverty to notice. Oh, and get Chinese help to hang on to power. Wash, rinse, repeat, election cycle after election cycle. Well, we noticed. Peter Yuen might be singing My Chinese Heart, but Canadians deserve candidates, no matter where they come from, to have Canadian hearts and Canadian loyalties. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. To learn more about Peter Yuen and the other radicals and extremists running to govern Canada as Liberal Party candidates, please go to meettheliberals.com.